Good morning, students. Welcome to St. Peter's School. Okay, so this is our second class. Hope you all are doing good. So let's start with the second. Let's start with the chapter one. We continued from in the last class, that is living world and the classification of microbes. Okay, so in last class we studied that the different types of classification is done by different types of scientists. Carl Linnaeus in 1735 he has divided um, living world into two kingdoms, that is in Vegetalia and Animalia. He said that only there are two types of kingdom are only there is one is plant and one is animals, but later on Haeckel has divided in 1860s considered three kingdoms, that there is other than plants and other than animals there is one another kingdom is Protista, plants and animals, while in 1925 Chatham created two groups, that is prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes has been divided on the basis of their cellular structure, while in 1938 Copeland divided living organisms into four kingdoms, that there is Monera names kingdom also, Protista name kingdom also, plants and animals also. But the experiment continues. After that, in again in 1920 and 1920 to 1980, one scientist was working on it, and finally in 1969 he introduced that he divided living organism into five groups. So what we are studying in this chapter, that biodiversity and what is the need of classification. Let's have a reading on this paragraph. We left it in previous class, that last year we learned that all the living organism on the earth have adapted according to geographic reasons, food ingestion, defense, etc. While adapting, many differences are observed in the organism of some species too. So what we studied in the last class, there are different types of living organism lies on the earth. Okay, and on the basis of their adapting nature, they are differentiated. Okay, but according to 2011 census, around 87 million species of the living organism are found on the earth, including land and the sea. Okay, so all the living organism living in the land, living on the sea, living on the land, living in the sea, is how many species is around calculated, that is around 87 million. So now it's a very important to know about, it is very important to know about every species in a detailed way, because these species only help us to make different types of medicines, different types of experiment are done on the basis of their species. Some species cause bacteria, some causes some species cause disease, while some species are very important to us. So now it's a very important to study about the every types of species. There is a need of classification. There is a need of classification should be done between the good bacteria, bad bacteria, good fungi, bad fungi. So there's a need comes to us that no, now we have to classify all this. So all the scientists were now involved in classifying these species. Okay, so come to the last. Now read from here that to study such a vast number, it was essential to divide in them into groups. So groups and the subgroups were created considering the similarities and differences among the living organism. This process of dividing living organism into groups and the subgroups is called biological classification. Now the all the species has been divided into groups and subgroups. Okay, in this everything things come down, so like its kingdom, species, genus. Okay, so we discussed all the terms in the last class. What are the numerology, what are the criteria on the basis of which the species classification is done. And the first criteria was kingdom, was its kingdom. So on this topic, on the kingdom, various scientists has done a different types of experiment, and they have divided the species into different types of kingdom. as we have already discussed that in Carl Linnaeus in 1735 divided living world into two kingdoms, only plant and animal, while Haeckel comes in 1866 and considered that there is a three kingdom. There is something protista also and plants and animals. In 1925 again Chatham created two groups, that is called prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So different types of scientists were involved later on in 1920 to 1981. Scientists was regularly working on it on the classifying the kingdom. Okay, so the scientist name was Robert Harding Whittaker. What he has done, he was an American ecologist. In 1969, he divided living organism into five kingdom. Okay, so this is the last what we are considering nowadays also, that kingdom is divided in on the basis of five kingdom is divided into five parts. Okay, so five types of kingdoms are there, and he divided all these kingdoms on the basis he has included certain types of criteria to divide this kingdom into five groups. And what are those criteria? That is the complexity of the cell structure, complexity city of the organisms, mode of nutrition, lifestyle, and phylogenetic and genetic relationship. Don't worry about all this term. We will discuss all the points very slowly. Okay. First of all, read out the first line I have given in your video, that Robert Whittaker proposed the five kingdom classification in 1969. All you understood that when he discovered the five kingdom, he discovered five kingdom classification in 1969. According to this classification, living organisms were classified into five groups. What are those groups? That is Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Before it was sometimes Plantae Animalia only, then Protista Plantae Animalia only, and Monera Plantae Animalia only. But this time according to Robert Whittaker, kingdoms species has been divided into mainly five kingdoms. That is Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Now, what are the criteria used for the classification? First, look at the first, that is complexity of the cell structure. And now, what is cell structure? There, we all know that there are two types of cell structure. One is plant cell, and one is animal cell. And there are some differences between plant cell and animal cell. We all have studied that there is a chloroplast in plant cell, there is a cell wall in plant cell, but there is a no cell wall in animal cell. There is a no chloroplast present in animal cell. So on the basis of this cell structure, he has divided a different types of kingdom. Okay. Second criteria he included is complexity of the organism, unicellular and the multicellular. Unicellular means like you can consider like prokaryotic cell, unicellular, because prokaryotic cell is not so well defined, so we are not able to see how many cells are there. So it's the type of unicellular. Okay, multicellular, you can consider as a eukaryote, but in multicell eukaryote is also of a type of two types. Okay, so we will see later on. Okay, multicellular means there are multiple, the species is made up of multiple cells. Okay. Mode of nutrition means what type of species is this? It is a self in the particular species cook self for them. It like for example plants are autotrophic because they prepare their own food. Fungi always depends upon the other dead and decay animals, so there only they can grow, so they are dependent on the other dead animals are heterotrophic. Animals are heterotrophic because they depends on us, they depends on plants, right? So okay, so on the basis of this also he has considered some kingdom. Okay, so lifestyle, what is the lifestyle? Plant is considered as a producer. Yes, we all know that plant prepare their own foods, and even the plant gives us different types of food. Okay, so plants is considered as the producer, while animals are only the consumer. They cannot produce anything. There are some few example exception, but and mostly the animals are consumers. Decomposers, fungi. What is fungi? Fungi is a decomposer. He do nothing. It do nothing because it only depends upon the dead and decay animals for their foods and their survival. Okay, and the last criteria he used is phylogenetic relationship, that is prokaryotic to eukaryotic and unicellular to multicellular. So we will study later on how it changes. Okay, so on the basis of this phylogenetic relationship also he divided a kingdom. Okay, you can you can see at the page number one. Okay, all the students, please keep your book in front of you only. Okay, so first read out in your books page number first. For this classification, we take a considered following criteria: complexity of the cell structure, prokaryotic, eukaryotic, complexity of the organism, unicellular or multicellular, mode of nutrition is plants. We I have already discussed all the points with you. You can see lifestyle and phylogenetic relationship. Now come to the just next to this classification, there is a table, one table given you. Okay, you can see like living world and the classification of microbes. Now what is this? Living world and the classification of microbes. So this is nothing, this is the same thing we discussed right now, that on the basis of these criteria, Whitaker has divided organism into five kingdom. And what species comes under the what criteria is showing in this table. You can see, like for example, organism firstly divided into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, you can see that in the in is that type of species in which the cell are not well defined, the nucleus is not well defined, cell wall is not well defined, so that type of cell is known as prokaryotes. And under prokaryotes, which kingdom comes? Monera. Monera kingdom is comes under the prokaryotes. So all the species which has no cell wall, which has no nucleus prominent, so that will be considered as the monera. Okay, now eukaryotes. Eukaryotes is the two types. In eukaryotes also there is a unicellular and the multicellular. Okay, unicellular means okay, there is a single cell structure. It's a defined cell structure, but there is a single cell structure. So that type of species will be known as protista. So what are the species made up of only a single cell is known as the protista. Now multicellular. Multicellular is also further divided into two parts, with cell wall and without cell wall. So one will be considered as the plant cell and one will be considered as the animal cell. Now with cell wall do not perform for photosynthesis. Okay, so there are some cells also, that type of cells which has a cell wall, which is introducing us that this is a plant cell, but it has no chloroplast. So he is not performing photosynthesis. So that type of that type of species is known as the fungi. Okay, now, which can perform photosynthesis is considered as a plantae, that we see in our nature, different types of plants, mosses. Okay, without cell wall means that is animal cell. So it is further divided into animalia. So you understood monera is and those type of species which has single cell. Eukaryotes and protista is that those type of cell which is also a single celled, but it will be a prominent cell structure. It has no cell prominent cell structure. Multicellular, and on the basis of cell wall, there are again two types of which can perform photosynthesis, which cannot perform photosynthesis, which has no chloroplast, which has chloroplast. So fungi and the plantae. Okay, without cell wall, that is will be animals what we see in our nature. Okay, further move to the next point, that is characteristics of the five kingdoms. We will study it in uh, a very detailed way, okay, in the next class. And here for the here only I have given only the introduction. Okay, whatever we studied, that is what is monera, what are the characteristics of monera. Monera will be organism having a prokaryotic cell structure. I have already discussed unicellular, yes, it should be unicellular, autotrophic or the heterotropic. Okay, the cell lacks a distinct autotrophic or the heterotropic, it may be any type. So it is it is not defined. So the cell lacks a distinct nucleus and cell organelles. Yes, it is a prokaryotic cell. So cell lacks a distinct nucleus and the cell organelles. What are the example from Monera? Bacteria, cyanobacteria, mycoplasma. Protista organism are eukaryotic and unicellular, contain a cell wall defined, well-defined nucleus enclosed in the nuclear membrane, contain pseudopodia, cilia, and flagella or for the locomotion. So we will study about in later on what is the pseudopodia, cilia, and flagella for the locomotion. This is a hair type structure which helps cell in moving. For now, you understood like this, that these all are the extra organelles attached to the protist, that cell that helps them, helps this particular cell in moving. Okay, autotropic or heterotropic. It may be autotropic also. It may be heterotropic also. What are the examples of for protista? That is Calmidomonas, Eugellina, amoeba. Okay. Fungi. Organism are eukaryotic, unicellular or multicellular. Okay, we already have discussed in this that organisms are eukaryotic, unicellular or multicellular, but it has no chloroplast, but it is a eukaryotic cell. Okay, have a true nucleus and a definite cell wall made up of chitin. Okay, non-green, it is non-green because due to absence of chloroplast. Saprophytic, yes, these are known as that, and these are known as the saprophytic. These are not considered as the autotrophic. It has been seen that it is not autotrophic or heterotrophic. It is saprophytic. It is dependent on the dead and decaying animals. Saprophytic are those organisms which depends on the dead and decaying animals or the plants is known as the saprophytic. Okay. And the example of fungi is mucor and rhizopus and Puccinia. And next is Plantae. Cell is bound by a cell wall made up of cellulose, contains a true nucleus and membrane bound cell, that is proper plant cell. Okay, and what comes under the Plantae are the algae, mosses, ferns, and trees, herbs, everything. Animalia lacks cell wall and plastids, earthworm, cycon, and beetle. So, so this is these all are the characteristics of the five kingdom which has been divided by the Whitaker, the different types of five kingdom: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. What are the five kingdoms divided by the Whitaker? Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. And these all are the characteristics of this kingdom. And these are the few example I have given you here. In next class, we will discuss we will study detailed about the what are the characteristics of Monera, what are the characteristics of Protista and Fungi. There are few experiments given in your books. We will look at the images of these bacteria and fungi in next class. For today, what you have to do, you have to learn all these five kingdom divided by Whitaker, and what are the characteristics of this whatever table I have given you. You have to learn it by heart. Okay. In next class, we will discuss further about the bacteria, and discuss about in these kingdoms like Monera, Protista, and fungi, and what are the classification of microbes. Till the time, take care and bye bye.